we can use Photoshop's brush engine to turn any photograph of an image into a brush. So let's see how to make some convincing ivy. Here's a leaf, and we can begin by scaling this down to a more usable size, and now desaturating it, so we're left with just black and white. With the marquee tool, make a rectangular selection that encloses the leaf as close as you can get to the edges. And now choose Edit, Define Brush Preset, and we can call this one Ivy. We're now finished with this, so we can hide it. When we switch to the brush tool and open the brushes panel, we can now see our new brush that we've just created. This preview at the bottom shows how it will appear if we paint with it now. With spacing set to 25%, all we get is a regular array of overlapping leaves. Let's fix that. We'll go to the Shape Dynamics pane at the top and set the size jitter to 100%. This means that the size of the brush will vary as we paint. We can set the angle jitter to 100% as well, and that'll bring in a more random flavor to this brush, making it look more convincing. The trouble is, at the moment, it's all tightly bunched together. Let's go to the Scattering pane and increase the scatter amount. Now, if we just drag this, we can see the brushes very quickly move very far apart. We've got leaves all over the place, and they're not connected. We can see this in the preview at the bottom. So we want to set a lowish value here. Round about 80–85% is good. And that's the way our brush works. Finally, let's change the color dynamics of this. We'll go to the Color Dynamics pane and set the foreground-background jitter to 100%. The preview only shows us a black and white image, so we're not going to see the effect of this last step. Let's look at it now. We'll make a new layer and we'll call it Ivy. I've already set the foreground and background colors to suitable greens. Here's the foreground color that I've chosen. It's a mid-mossy green. And here's the background color, which is a strong dark green. And we can see our new brush is selected, and that's the size of it. When we paint, we get a fairly convincing ivy effect. Of course, this will work best when we're on a photographic background. Let's undo that step and reduce the size of this brush using the square bracket keys. Here's a suitable background, and we can start by painting some ivy on top of this sphinx at the front. As we paint now, we can see how the ivy follows the line of our painting, but the randomness built into it gives us a much more appealing and more organic look. We can make it more convincing still by adding a drop shadow to this whole layer, and we can do this using the Layer Style dialog. I'll accept the default settings for now, and we can see now the shadow behind the ivy gives it a good relief from the object. We can make the brush smaller to paint in the background, and we can paint our ivy dripping down the side of this building, maybe rising up, going around this bell push, piece hanging down there, another piece going along this horizontal section of the door, and perhaps reaching up and winding around the doorknob itself. We can paint any way we like with this. Obviously, we should pay attention to the way the ivy does tend to grow, and we can just take this out of the frame so it looks more as if it's coming from a planted source elsewhere. And there we have the ivy brush.